Hey, hi, Sean. Nice to see you, boys.
Someone found his car keys. No jokes. What's going on with that anyway?
Sorted.
Sorted?
Yeah. Sorted. Had a bit of a mishap on Sunday morning. Went down to the bottom of Wentworth Falls. Went for a huge hike. And, lost my keys down at the bottom. Didn't have a spare key. Had to get a train back to...
was that expensive?
I thought they just give you a spare key.
No. So, yeah, it probably cost me, maybe...
Yeah, those keys are expensive.
$1,400 maybe for...
Fuck off.
For another
those
double.
keys are
I need an
expensive.
original. I need a double. So
Yeah,
probably...
but
Even $700 is expensive.
Don't you get a spare when you buy the car?
You do.
So where's your spare?
I used the spare and lost the spare. Okay.
Oh, so this is
But
like
we're
a
good.
thing.
So, that's a skill that I don't have is...
Mate, lessons learned.
That's it. You live and you learn, you know?
You learn.
Yeah. You actually, you don't know how to wipe a toilet bowl either. Left
Wipe
shit
a toilet
stains.
bowl?
Last week you shat in my toilet. You left skid marks, and I said to myself, bro, if this guy's
Hey, it's a skill.
I said,
Fuck, you know.
Because I don't know, you've got the skill of just like being able to just shit in the middle of class at 180
Bro,
and then somehow sneak back into class as if no one's noticed.
I've
Just
done
very incognito.
You haven't done that for a while.
actually, what I'm not
seen you
skilled
there for a
at
while.
is like I don't like my bowel movements. They're not like on the fucking.
The time, like on
yeah,
time.
they're not like, you know what I mean?
They're late.
Yeah,
they
okay.
might be a little bit late.
Yeah,
they
but
might be a
also
little
they're
bit
just like they're not
nodding
that.
off.
Anyway,
This is the definition of
hear about my bowel movements.
yeah, exactly. The definition of talking shit. If you're watching right now,
We're literally talking shit.
welcome back to part 2 of skills. We're not going to go into a whole big intro because we're just kicking off from where we went off last week, I reckon. So, where were we talking about last week? We kind of went away from skills a little bit. But
Yeah, we did.
What aren't you skilled at, JP?
Oh, I'm not skilled at plenty of things. You caught me off guard there. I'm going to have to think about that one. Pass. No, I don't know what I'm not skilled at. Fucking hell. I don't think
What are you
about
skilled
that
at then?
often.
What are some of the skills that you've
Let's
you've
start
learned?
there, you negative cunt.
Oh, what skills did you start with LinkedIn? Or what did you learn from LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think actually, you know what? I'm gonna even take it back a step and say that I think there's a lot of skills that we acquire that we're not really very aware of very early on in our life. Like, I mean, for example, if someone was to tell me, or if I, now I tell myself that, how much working in retail benefited me. But, if someone was to say to me back then, like I'm going to go into retail and I learn skills and I talk to people, whatever, I would have kind of brushed it off and said, I'm just working in a job here and, want to earn a bit of extra money so I can go to the club on a Friday night, buy bottles with the cousins, whatever.
Buy bottles,
But yeah, like, for example, I think about like some of the earliest skills that I learned was from, the fact that I just got into working in retail so early and I was talking to people so often, so early. And I also think that I experienced, you experience competition and stuff like that at school, but I experienced competition in the workplace really early. I got the bug for competition in the workplace really early because, first and foremost, I worked at Greater Union and that wasn't very much a competitive environment by any means, but you were dealing with people all the time. But then when I moved into working at, where'd I go? I went to Superdry. Pacific Brands at the time owned Superdry, they owned Bonds, a whole bunch of Diesel. So yeah, working at Superdry, getting in and having budgets and your colleagues having a budget and you having a budget and then, competing for like items per sale, who can upsell a pair of socks, with a fucking t-shirt, or who can get a pair of underwear that are sitting on the counter when someone's interested in buying stuff. Like,
make it a bit of a game.
Yeah, made a bit of a game. So I think that like I took to competition well and, I got a lot of exposure to talking to people often at a really young age and learn to, even something as simple as like breaking the ice with someone is not like
rapport building.
Not really as rapport building, breaking, having icebreakers. Like it's not something that, I know a lot of people, cousins and people that I know or whatever that they just didn't get that experience in retail. Some people might even say like, hospo might be kind of similar or even some say even better. Like, so I think just, when we talk about skills, I think that was a big thing for me that, was definitely the stepping stone for me to do what I did in my career, honestly, because, that's just what I do now. I literally talk to people for a living. I do my best to like educate and influence, and those are the kind of skills.
But is that a skill that's been developed and refined? But you had a good base of being able to speak with people, true? Like, you know what I mean? Being able to communicate naturally anyway.
Very good point. And I think I credit that, I credit a lot of that to my parents, to my mum in particular. I mean, look, I went to a good school, but like my mum used to read to me, every day. I actually remember, I can visualize it. She used to read to me all the time. We had all the Dr. Seuss books.
Yeah, wow.
And she used to tell me how, I don't know how old I was, but she has a very distinct memory of when one day she was reading the book to me and I took the book off her and I said, no, Mum, I'm going to read it today. And I don't know if I actually read
That
it or
sounds
if I
like a little
memorized it.
Big boy JP. What are your big boy pants
So
on?
I took the book and then I can't remember if she said that I read it or if I had
I bet you did
memorized
read
it.
or I just knew it because she'd read it so many times. But
Cat in the Hat, was it? Or Green,
yeah,
green Eggs
but
in
you
the
know
Ham?
what? They were really big on that, and I don't know if when I was at school, I was in some of the plays and speech and drama and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that I'll definitely credit my parents to that in terms of they understood the importance of the ability to communicate, and I think part of that is also because my dad is obviously Egyptian. He came here when he was mid-30s, and he was working in Hawkesbury. I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys. Working in Hawkesbury out in Windsor. Man, that place is really Aussie, very white now, let alone imagine what it would have been 30 years ago or something. And I think he always was trying really hard to assimilate into Australian culture. He still has the Aussie slang books in the top of his cupboard.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? He's been
G'day,
wearing
mate.
R.M. Williams boots for so long. We went to the Tamworth Country Music Festival. He's always been very
Assimilating into Aussie culture.
wanting to be a part of it
Part of
and
the
not
culture.
separate. Just because he's Egyptian. And mind you, my dad is a fucking proud Egyptian. His Facebook photo's got the Egyptian flag wrapped around him. He goes back twice, 3 times a year when he can.
It's like when
Actually, he's
you
gone
were a
back
kid and you were trying to wear Vans and
exactly
It's
right.
like your dad doing it for that. Yeah, that's hilarious.
But I think that because he felt the importance of that, they must have then relayed that onto me. So that's what kind of going back to the foundation, I think, of where some of those skills probably came from in the first instance.
So when you were at Superdry with doing that type of selling, is that something that you knew you wanted to do, sell, or was it in some capacity? I mean, we all sell, obviously.
Yeah.
But you're specifically in sales with tech.
Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely didn't know, mate. I'll tell you, there's not a single person in sales that will tell you that sales was their vocation or they wanted to get into it, except for maybe one of my old VPs who his son, he's getting his son into sales because he's aware of it. There's just not much awareness of that as a career path, and it seems kind of that seems a bit unstable and maybe not a very safe career path or what have you. So I definitely didn't know I wanted to get into sales by any means. All I knew is at that age I wanted to get a job, and retail was it was kind of cool too, right? Because in retail you're working for a brand. Yeah. So it's kind of sexy. You're I'm working for this brand. And Superdry was brand new in Australia at the time. I was there at the grand opening of the store. I was underage, so I couldn't drink. They had Asahi Superdries, literally beer bottles and everything. So yeah, I definitely didn't know I wanted to get into sales, but I definitely developed a relationship with it and a passion for it. And just that fierce spirit, and that drive to want to win and to to
compete,
beat everyone else's budgets and to overachieve and that I got a kick out of that.
Yeah, nice. And you're in sales as well, obviously, with Brother Bear.
Yeah, to an extent. It's a bit more natural, but people are coming to you, so I don't feel like you got to push anything on them necessarily.
No. They come.
That's right.
Yeah. What about the skills for you then?
Yeah,
what did you have to? Because you were in hospitality before you went
that's
on
right.
Brother Bear, obviously. So what are some of the things that you?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the skills, I don't think of them in black and white. These are the skills I learned in running my shop. I think running the business and obviously doing stock take and doing my financials and counting cash at the end of the day and working. I think these are all skills within a business. But in terms of skill, communicating with people, that was always very natural because we were working in cafes and restaurants and bars and that before. But I think I like to think that no matter what person came, whether big, small, old, young, black, white, I always feel I could have just had a very personable one-on-one conversation with that person. And it was a very, you can reach over the counter and literally touch me. It's not far. We're so close to one another. So there was a very personal relationship there. And I think building that rapport naturally over time, it felt like people used to come to the shop all the time and be man, we're all my customers were my mates.
Yeah.
So
it felt the environment.
It felt so
as a
natural.
coffee shop.
Correct.
It's the environment.
It is. But even more so, I really don't know. And I challenge anyone that knows a shop similar to that. Maybe you have you go to a little hole in the wall like that. I don't know any other cafe that was as intimate as the one I had.
Really?
Almost, yeah.
What do you put that down to? Like, did you know? Like, did you know? You didn't know these people before you had the cafe, most for the most part, right?
I believe my personality.
Yeah.
I believe my personality, and I also believe like the physical structure of the shop being 4 meters by 4 meters, and
close.
okay, that's the star of the show. They're like, there's Maddie making coffee at the window. Like, you just know, like, I'm gonna fucking be there. You know what I mean? There was no one else there, bro, except my brother, obviously. And at the start, that's what was awesome.
It's almost like you were the brand.
Yeah.
You were the brand,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Like,
which was hard, which was beautiful and like difficult because I could never like pull myself away.
Yeah.
And when selling the business, it was a big part of people like that were looking into like potentially purchasing it was that they were so aware that, you know, people would come to hang out.
That's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
that's very
They
interesting,
would
isn't it?
miss
And
that.
that's
They would
one
miss that face. They would miss that.
That's one
Yeah.
thing a lot of
That
business
person.
owners talk about is like they talk about you know, getting to a point where, you know, even working in recruitment and stuff, it was always like people always wanted Stella, my boss,
Yeah.
you know, Stella, the director, Stella. And then that must be such a difficult thing
To pull away.
you know, to pull away and to keep the business running at, you know, the capacity.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like that's obviously a skill in itself, but like at its absolute core, like regardless of customers and business skills and financials and all those things, I think the skill came back down to like I was a barista. So like I like the skill
Maddie's
of
coffee.
making the skill of making coffee. I still to this day get so much satisfaction, and it's so therapeutic to like make coffee. Like I love the whole process. Like you have fresh beans, you grind them, you're measuring exactly how many
loves
grams
it.
are in there.
It's like an art. It's
Loves
like
it, yeah.
it's art,
It
mate.
is, bro.
Okay, tell us about like the time that you were learning that.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
what was that
who
like?
taught you
Where
to
did
do
you
that?
do that? And
Yeah. So
How did
I
that come
remember
about?
I was probably 16 or 17, and I just, whenever I used to walk into cafes, I used to just be like, yeah, this is where I'm meant to be. Like, it just, I don't know, there was something about it, whether it was, like nowadays there's cafes everywhere, but I think like 2011, 2012, like cafes were just like sort of becoming cool. There's like, like avocado toast and cold brew and like, like all this like cool sort of like cafe culture. Nowadays it's a bit more wanky, and it's like, you know, they're moving away from like, I guess, hipster barista sort of coffee shops now. But when I first started, there was like so much like pull for me to go towards that. And then had a friend of mine have a cafe in St. Ives called Stanley Street Cafe. Awesome cafe. That's where I started learning. But at the start, it was very foreign. Like I was just getting used to like grinding beans and like understanding the whole process. But I remember I used to just literally go hand out my resume to as many places as possible. Most places wouldn't take me because like with being barista, you have to have experience, but how do you get experience without like getting experience type of thing? It's one of those cases. But this lady's like, oh yeah, she opened up a new shop. She's like, yeah, you can come like learn off this barista. I don't know if we're going to give you a job, but she offered. So I was like, yeah, damn, like whatever, I'll go in. I was like 17, went and like worked at this shop for like a day for no money, just to go hang out with the head barista, Max, I remember his name was. And he taught me so much, bro, like in this one day. And then I used to just watch YouTube videos after YouTube videos. And then like I picked it up super quickly. And then after that, it was just like refining latte art, bro. Like, you know how your explore page on Instagram is like whatever you scroll? Mine used to be literally just people pour. I used to watch for hours, bro.
Wow.
Like, I'm kidding.
Coffees.
Just people pouring latte art, especially in Japan and Korea. They're like very, I don't know what it is about, and I want to get into this as well about skills, like culturally with skills. I feel like some skills are naturally like better with some cultures, like things that are
Think about soccer. Think about
soccer. There's one. Even things like that are very precise. I just feel like with Asians, they're just a little bit more delicate with their hands. They can just
sashimi. Yeah. I get ya.
If you go to Korea and Japan, all the baristas are just like very like.
Is the coffee good there?
When I was in Japan, it was fucking sensational, bro.
Really?
Yeah, it was really good because there was lots of Aussie roasters over there, all press and single O. So there's lots of like.
Man, what's the deal with Australia and coffee?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about
Does
that?
Australia have great coffee? Like
Yeah.
Americans talk about that quite a lot.
Everyone talks about how good the coffee.
Yeah.
Why is
Australia's
that?
just got a great coffee culture. All our coffee beans like come from specific parts of the world. But like, for example, if you go and like the coffee you had this morning from Campos, that bag, and this, I feel like this, if we're going back to skill and referring it back to skill, I feel like skill and knowledge are intertwined. I feel like the more knowledgeable you are about a certain topic, the easier it is to pick up the skill that's related to the knowledge. Because like, if I didn't have a genuine interest in learning and accumulating knowledge, then that wouldn't translate to me being able to put in the time to develop that skill. Like John, the boys in that PT at 180, like they're so knowledgeable about what they know and they develop skills. Even now, like I seen a video yesterday of John from 180, like learning how to do butterfly pull-ups. Like he's so knowledgeable about training in general. He's got such a passion to develop and get better. So that thus translates into him putting time in to develop the skills.
And I think
more.
that's where it comes from, though. I think it starts with the passion, and then it goes, I want to learn about this. Then that leads to knowledge.
Interest.
Yeah.
And then,
Totally. Yeah. Well, and that's what I noticed. But yeah, circling back to like coffee, like it's the same bean. It just comes to in Australia, comes to the roaster in Australia. We're just lucky that we have really great roasters here, and we roast them, bag them up, and then the skill is then extracting it to make it taste that beautiful. We'll get Spro Bros Regan on because he'll be like frothing at the mouth over this conversation.
Coffee.
Fun facts about coffee.
But yeah, what about you, Shawnee? What's the go with you, bro? Like, what do you feel like your biggest skills are? You know, it doesn't have to be related to PT, but obviously you're a fit human. So
well, that's where going back to when I sort of started out as a PT. I mean, I did my course, and you learn as much skills as you can within that course, but it's such a short period of time. And going into becoming a PT, it's very daunting. And where I went to become a PT to start off with, I was training probably 30, mid 30, 40 plus year olds, right? So I was young. I was 21, 22. And I had that perception like, these people are going to look at me. And I look young as well, right? I look young already, but back when I was 22, I looked like a fetus. But I would train these clients, and I would be like really scared, like, oh man, like, how do they see me? Like, I look so young. I'm fresh out the gates.
Imposter syndrome,
yeah, 100%. But fortunately, when I sort of started there, I sort of got thrust into it because one of the trainers had left. So I pretty much got 12 clients straight off the bat, 12 to 15 clients straight off the bat.
Whoa, bro. That's a big number.
Big number. So in the first 6 months, sort of how I went about doing my PT, I was just wanting my clients to like me. I just wanted them to like me. So in terms of me holding them accountable, and in terms of me, really putting my foot down in terms of them not, doing the things that they're supposed to get a result, which they're paying for at the end of the day. I really was struggling with that. So what I had to do was I had to obviously bring up my skills in terms of my communication, in terms of making sure that I wasn't, I was being more respected rather than liked.
Yeah.
So what I used to do at that point in time after 6 months they had a personal training manual, which was like 400 pages. Talked about nutrition, programming, communication, disc analysis, etc. So what I did was, and going back to like being interested in something and passionate about something, I was obviously super passionate about PT. So as I started to build up, and unfortunately I was still gaining clients through that 6 months, even though I wasn't confident in, my communication style at the time. Because this is what would generally happen, right? I'll give you a bit of an example. So a client would come in, we would have some goals that we want to do in terms of, making a certain amount of drop in weight over a certain amount of time. They had to do a food diary, all that sort of stuff. So they would weigh in. They wouldn't hit the mark. They didn't do their food diary. They didn't do their walks. They didn't do what they were supposed to do for that week. So I would just be like, oh, okay, no worries, let's go train. And I wouldn't bring anything up. I wouldn't hold them accountable. I wouldn't, again, because I was in that mindset where I wanted them to like me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
And you didn't want to
be
upset
aggressive
yeah,
so that was sort of how it was going. Like some of my clients were still getting results, which is fine, but I wanted to refine that. I wanted to be better at this. So what I would do is I'll lock in, I think at the time I'll lock in 2 hours of study, and I would read this PT manual. So first of all, I'll start with communication. That was the first thing I started with. And that's what they talked about within that. The whole manual was about being respected more than liked, going through disc analysis, which I think we spoke about a little bit last week in skills. So understanding people and understanding how they communicate, understanding how I can communicate with them better. So I just did that over and over again. So everything that I learned in that 2 hours, I would come back out onto the floor as a PT, and I would regurgitate it and just try my best to obviously
put it into practice.
So I did that, and that was for probably a good 4 years where I did that, where I just went through this PT manual, 400 pages. I actually added another 2 hours of that, so I was doing 4 hours a week, where I'll just lock the door and I'll sit in there and I'll just learn as much as I can to refine those skills. So some of the skills that I got better at was obviously the communication skills, understanding people better. So the scenario went from now, when a client would come in and they weren't doing what they were supposed to doing, it was like, okay, well, let's go sit down and let's have a conversation about this. Tell me a bit more about what's going on in your week. What stopped you from being able to do this? And going through those processes of communicating more effectively with clients, as opposed to just going, okay, no worries, let's move on. So I think it took about maybe even 2 months before there was a dramatic switch and change in me being able to get my clients results, and also seeing that they do respect me a little bit more, where they're going to be doing the things that they were supposed to be doing within that. So the main skills there was, again, communication was a massive one. And I could communicate with people, I could talk to people. I mean, that was easy. But when you're in a situation where you're going client PT, it's very different.
The dynamic has changed. It's not person to person. It's like client to...
Yeah, and there's ways in which you can communicate a little bit more effectively, so you can pull out, ways in which, they're going to want to do the things that they should be doing to get the result that they want. So, and I did that throughout, and I've been doing that throughout the last 13 years, just trying to refine as many skills as I can in terms of being better at communicating, because that's an ongoing thing, I think. Like communication skills, you could be great at communication skills, but again, just continuing to refine it over and over again. And then that links into things like leadership and all those types of things. So that was something that I did to really work on skills, deliberate practice, where you, and this was from Grit, a book that I read from Angela Duckworth. So she talks about grit, where it's all about, they look at talent and they go, okay, so is talented people the only people that can be successful, or are there other things that can come to the fore? And she talks about grit, resilience, and perseverance. And she's a psychologist, and she talks about, I don't think she came up with this idea, but it's called deliberate practice, where there's 4 stages for deliberate practice. Number 1, you set a SMART goal. I think most people know what a SMART goal is. Number 2, you work 100% on that goal. Like you 100% focus on that goal. So for example, if it's communication for me, learning about disc style, I'd sit in the office, I'd have the goal, I want to learn about disc, I want to learn how can I apply that to my clients. And the second stage, go into the office and I just make sure that I 100% work on that. The third thing is to get feedback. I get feedback from somebody that's, I guess, an expert in that, or where they can watch you. And what we used to do at that particular gym is we used to watch each other train. So say, for example, you're a training client, I would come and watch you, and I'd have a checklist of things that you are doing or not doing. Yeah, okay. So I would go to my manager and say, okay, like I've learned this, I've been working on it 100%. Can you come and watch me and see how my communication skills are? And then the fourth one is revise, and then maybe change the goal if you need to. So so that's what I did, and that's how I got better at those skills.
What I'm seeing, right, is like, so you're a PT, right, or you were a PT, and you still are in some way, shape, or form a personal trainer / motivational fitness dude, teacher, instructor, all around gym athlete junkie, right? And you're a salesman through and through. To your bones, you're a salesman. You are, and you possess the skill of sales. I've worked in hospitality for a long time, but I don't want to limit you to that. What else are you?
Oh, no, it's not. I think it's not that. It's just, I think it's, it's funny. I read this in the book once. It was saying how like the best salespeople in the world, they even when it comes to sales, we're called account executives, or they talks about Steve Jobs and how that he was a salesman. Yeah. I definitely think I am. I just think that the like if you were to see the way that I sell or we sell and you would look at it, and I think most people would probably be surprised at the way that it's done. Right. I think most people, if they were to go, like sell a product, if I was to tell one of my cousins to go sell a product, they would literally fucking sit down with me and they go, this is why this product is great, and they pitch it to me.
Exactly, which is my point here, which is what I'm saying. So though they're completely different industries, and I was working in hospitality, restaurants, cafes and bars, each individually have different skills, like completely different in terms of technical skills that you would write down on your resume. Yeah. However, it still circles back to the one thing, which is communication, which is being able to just verbally have someone, like, build rapport with that person, form a relationship of some sort. And for some reason, that's not a skill that is a technical skill that you can watch a YouTube video.
Soft skills.
That you just learn by just doing it and just putting yourself into practice. But for some reason, people are just naturally better than than others at that. And it's something that you can develop. Yeah. But why is it when you meet someone, you're like, I just like this guy. I mean, he's just easy to talk to. He's just, you know what I mean? Some people just have that innately. No, you're
100% right. And I mean, this goes back to the whole nature versus nurture thing, right? I think that maybe some people just naturally have a higher baseline for some of this stuff. But that's not to say that a lot of other people can't go and work on a skill like this and become phenomenal at it,
Yes.
But yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think that, when you think about things like resilience and grit and some of that, I think that some of that, maybe that dog that people have in them does come just inherently natural. And some of it is completely circumstantial. Like maybe your parents are immigrants and they've come over here, or you've seen them grow up in this and they're struggling, and you or whatever it may be, or some of it might be from that, SFJ, that, shitty first job that people talk about, that just, where I'm fucking walking through the Martin Place, or I'm in Manly and Fairlight with my sign trying to I
remember that. That's the funniest story,
bro.
bro.
The saddest shit. So no, 100% agree. I think that there is some people do just have a naturally higher baseline for certain skills.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's that willingness also to go out and do it as well. Like, so a lot of the time when I talk to my students, I ask them sales. I say, hey, hands up if you like sales or you don't like sales or whatever. And then only 2 to 3 people, say in the class of 25, will put their hand up because they're afraid of, the whole concept of selling. But everybody sells. We're selling. We're trying to
It's
sell.
like those Andy Elliott videos.
Yeah,
Andy Elliott.
Bro, I love that guy.
Yeah.
I actually love him.
Why haven't you made a sale this week?
And I know
Because you're a fucking pussy.
No, but you know what? Like, even coming back to this topic of sales, and this is why, I like a lot of salespeople, I don't like the term salesperson, because if you tell people oh, you any good at sales, you any good at selling, all of a sudden they seize up and they go, but if you position selling as I am actually, your job is to actually, at the end of the day, a transaction only occurs when the other person on the other side feels like there's enough value, or they feel like they're getting more from their dollar that they're paying than what they're receiving.
Yes.
Like they're getting more from what you're giving them. Generally speaking, you go buy something, you'd be like, that's worth it. That being worth it means that you place more value on the thing you're receiving than the money you're exchanging for.
So a salesman isn't to convince them, but rather to present value.
Present value and to solve a very specific problem. Because you got to always remember that no one's going to hand over their money unless they think it is absolutely unequivocally worth it, right? Yeah. So that's why a lot of it, that's why the basis of selling is discovery. In any instance, any industry, PT, what I do, whatever, is understanding what it is this person is struggling with, or what are their key challenges, what are their problems. At the end of the day, change is hard. So what is the catalyst? Ding, 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 ding. What's the catalyst for this person to actually make a change, right? And that's the biggest thing, is one, understanding, what it is that might cause a person to change, and then the second thing is understanding if there is enough propensity to even make a change. Because the fact of the matter is, qualifying people in and out is a big part of it too, PT or otherwise. Qualification of does someone? Because at the end of the day, people always tend to buy, or have a much stronger propensity to buy on pain than on gain. There are a small percentage of people that will buy something and pay money for something to make themselves better, but the majority of people
to avoid
pay something because something is causing them issues, or they're suffering from it, or I'm trying to think of an example. Maybe Shawnee will go buy a pair of trail shoes. If he fucking goes on a trail, he slips up, hurts his fucking leg. He's more likely to go and buy a pair of trail shoes than, if he's just oh, you know what, my other shoes were fine, these ones will just be better for me. He'll be like, no, I fucking did it in the other normal running shoes last time. But if he slips, hurts his fucking leg, he's like, no, I need more traction. Whatever, so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Well, I think then for a lot of people then, to be able to present more value when you're going for specific job opportunities, or just in life in general, to be able to develop these skills. I feel like a lot of people stop short because they're just comfortable in the job that they have, or that they've been trained up to a certain level in a job that requires them only to do a certain amount of things, or a certain limited skill set. Do you think that people should focus more on building their skills and adding to their repertoire and adding to their arsenal certain skills that makes them more valuable in the workplace? Because you said before that companies and businesses are looking less at, maybe in the years prior at, their degrees and their formal qualifications, and now about both soft and hard skills. Do you think a lot of people just get comfortable in their job and comfortable in their surroundings to the point where they're like, oh, I'm not an unskilled laborer, but I have skills for this job, and they maybe don't transfer across to different industries or even better job opportunities?
Yeah, look, I don't know what you guys think about. The way I think about this is, people often have, and Shawnee, you know a lot about this too. They have their own self-limiting beliefs, or we talk about in the workplace. We talk a lot about growth mindset versus fixed mindset, and I feel like there are a lot of people that have a fixed mindset around what their capabilities are because of what society's told them. For example, someone might think to themselves, I'm working in marketing, for example, or I'm working in fucking, sales or whatever it may be. And maybe that they've just peaked in interest. I think it always comes from like, people always have like some sort of interest in another area, so it's in something, right? No matter what you do, there's something that interests you, right? Maybe someone in marketing or sales might be interested in tech. In my industry, for example, they might be interested in product. How do great like tech or digital products actually get made? And like they think, oh, maybe that might be something, but they think to themselves, oh, would someone actually hire me in those areas? So I think that it comes down to, well, and we were talking about this before. Has someone's interest peaked in a certain area? When I say peaked, I mean P-I-Q-U-E, like,
I see.
Yeah, not as in peaked as in...
Right. Peaked as in heights.
Yeah. And then do people actually have the balls to like go in and either go in and like try and upskill in those areas, learn from people, talk to people, and then, potentially, reskill or upskill in a certain area. So I think that, but we've come from a society that's been very traditional about career paths. You know what I mean? Like we haven't come from a place where we've come from a place where a generation ago, people would get a job that either stay in that job for a really long time or they'd stay in that vertical basically forever. They wouldn't really switch. Whereas now we're in an era and a generation where people are having multiple careers. Like, I mean, even though I only stepped out of it for a second, like I've already had another career technically. Like I've gone recruitment, which is, but recruitment is
interrelated, but still,
real estate. I went into LJ Hooker for a bit. That was like another career for me, like for a bit, but I realized it wasn't for me. I come back here and I'll probably go into some other career path that I'm,
But as a byproduct, that was developing skills along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
And the other thing is that like skills is just one thing, right? Too, because the other thing you realize is that, you might have the skills to do something, but, is what the idea of something or that interest or that passion that you thought you'd have for something actually what it ends up being when you get there, Yes. I think that's a big part of it too. Like, for example, for me, when I went into work at LJ Hooker in real estate, the culture and the environment wasn't at all really what I wanted. Like, it just wasn't for me. Like, I was going into the office a couple of days a week with a suit on. It wasn't me, right? The environment and the culture. So I think that when it comes to choosing a career path, I think skills and interest are one thing, but I think that culture and environment are something that it's unfortunately
as important.
But you can't really. It's one of the things you can't really get. It's difficult to get a feel for that unless you're in it.
Yeah,
it's difficult.
You just got also just try stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, at some point in time, you just got to go and try stuff.
Is that a skill in and of itself, being willing to try, or is that more of a character trait? Do you know what I mean?
That comes down to limiting beliefs, like people not wanting to try because potential judgment or potentially
100%.
They're going to go down a path that's not right, that their parents don't think that's good for them, or they think they're the family, or whatever it may be. So that could be something as well. Then.
Yeah, and like honestly, I'll tell you this: I left. I was at. Did you guys know I worked at LinkedIn?
Shout out to LinkedIn.
Alejandro gave me shit about this.
I'm
so sick of hearing about LinkedIn.
We're gonna get a sponsorship from these guys. Plug them like 10 times.
But I mean, I was basically, like I said to you guys before, I basically grew up there. But I was
Did you work at LinkedIn?
I was there for 5 years. But my point from that is that, bro, leaving there, I was so afraid of the judgment of like switching jobs after that. And guess what? I left there. I went somewhere else. I switched within a year. And then after that, I switched again within the year. And like, man, you know what? It was the best thing that could have ever happened to me because I do not give a shit now. Like, because, man, what you come to realize is the people that love you and care for you are always happy for you and are always excited for you no matter what. The people that they don't, maybe they'll congratulate you, maybe they'll be like, oh, and then you get the occasional snark. You're like, oh, what happened to that? You know what I mean? Yeah. And they're like kind of questioning it, like, oh, you were really excited for that. What happened to that? Like that fizzled out, bro. But like, that was the best thing could happen to me, having that 5-year stint and then going in and kind of jumping a little bit around because, man, I feel so liberated in terms of like the whole, other external opinions and stuff like that when it comes to my career now because I've already experienced that and done that like jump around. Whereas, I know that a lot of people I speak to now who are even thinking about leaving LinkedIn, they have that same hesitation around like, oh, like I want to make the right move because, I know that people tend to like jump around a bit and they're worried. But man, at the end of the day, the only time you really know what the fuck's going on is when you try it. When you get in there, you give it a red hot crack. There's a million variables that you cannot account for when you're sussing a job out. or when you're interviewing somewhere, or when you're sussing out a new career path. There's only so much due diligence you can do until you just got to fucking jump in the deep end.
100%.
Yeah, but that's it's hard for people to be able to do that, whether they want to start a new career, whether they want to start a business or whatever it may be. Like they have those limiting beliefs, boundary conditions, but it all comes down to like, are they willing to try it? Are they willing to put themselves out there? And there's so many limiting beliefs that people have. Like so many. Like, did you have limiting beliefs when you were starting your cafe? Was there anything that sort of you had in your mind that sort of thought they could potentially hold you back?
I was
He's like, no.
Nah, I fucking smashed it.
Let's go.
I was always very confident in myself, bro. Very confident in my ability. However, I was scared. I definitely was scared. I was like, there was definitely doubt of like, fuck, I'm 21 years old. Like, I don't know how to like run a business. Like,
was it like we're scared about what? Like
failure.
Yeah,
naturally, you just there's always going to be a fear of failure naturally. But I feel like you said, you just gotta stop dipping your toe in and dive the fuck in, man. Like that's exactly what I did, bro. So
but I think also like there's two things. Like people think that they people don't want to go and do something because they might fail, right? Like they're gonna fail, or people are gonna judge them. But also I think a lot of the time people go, okay, what if I get there and I do well and I have to continue to do it? Like I have to keep up this new person. I have to keep up this new identity. I have to keep showing up at this time. I have to keep posting on social. I have to keep being in the eye or whatever it may be. Like I think people need to realize that that's another side of it as well.
Yeah.
Like what if I actually make it?
Where do you think that? Where do you think that goes wrong? So as in, okay. Point is, like, I'll give you an example. I've actually thought that before about like I'd considered the buyer's agency path, and it still might be something I consider in the future. But one thing I've thought to myself is like, what if it goes what if it goes really well, and then all of a sudden like I find myself in a position where my weekends are shot, and I know it's a stupid fucking thing to think, right? Because like once you're there and you're successful, surely you're just going to be happy and you're like great. But at the end of the day, like you
love balance.
You go down a path and like. Yeah, like, and it's funny. I was talking to a mate of mine who has started doing like kind of coaching and like with a psych lens on it, and he was saying how I was talking to him about how my career path in tech and career path in whether it be buyer's agency or real estate or what have you, and we just got talking, and he doesn't really talk that much. He kind of just prompts you, and that's the whole idea behind coaching. He just wanted to do some practice sessions with me because he's been studying it, and fucking intelligent. Bro, probably the most intelligent guy I know. Andrew White. Shout out Andrew White. Love you, bro. Probably not listening. So he was saying how he was saying how like regardless of he wasn't even saying, he was prompting me tech or real estate, and he's like, okay, well, what are you trying to achieve through that potential real estate path? And I'm like, I guess that independence, running my own business, and the potential for the earning potential to look after my family and to build something worth building, but while also having that flexibility. And basically we got to a point where he's like, well, it kind of sounds like they both offer those same benefits. Maybe one has a higher ceiling in terms of owning your own business, what have you, but it sounds like they both enable you to provide. They both enable you to have that level of flexibility. In fact, you'd argue that maybe the other one, that the tech path that you're already on might lend itself more so to that. And then, I got to that point where I was like, oh, you know what? Actually, even though this other one that I was really keen on, because of maybe what other people have been saying too. Other people talk so much about flexibility and running their own show, but that's because those career paths that they're on don't allow them the level of flexibility that maybe the career, in tech or what have you. So anyway, bringing it back to the point, which is like, what if something goes really well? Well, something like that real estate path, like, all of a sudden it goes well, your weekends are really busy. Kristen does her flowers, and people are often maybe afraid of like what actually success might bring.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's maybe a little bit more, not rare, but lesser so, but still a thing.
Yeah.
Shout out Andrew White. Thanks for listening, bro. Appreciate you.
Hopefully.
JP used to work for LinkedIn. So,
oh, man. It's an interesting topic. I really wanted to get onto the bit about I don't know if we have time, about the whole like we're talking about like skills inherently like soccer, and like why is it that like
cultures and
the environment and like you just go to South America or you just go to like
because they worship fucking Messi and Neymar and all these like soccer players. It's like worship,
but it's just like it's
part of the culture.
Literally just You know, this whole like not manifesting, but like visualizing something. Like for example, I was thinking about the snatches I was doing today, and I felt like I got better at them just from watching people on Instagram do them. Is it because they're just so exposed to like
bro, I got better like that.
Yeah?
I got better
By
like
watching?
that by
Yeah.
fucking
It's just exposure.
scrolling, but doing it and practicing,
Coffee.
doing it and practicing. Coffee, no,
coffee,
but
yeah.
Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah, just
And-
from watching, not even from like watching and practicing, just watching. Like,
Just watching, but as well, like I was under like Kyle, I forget his last name, number one.
Sanderlands.
Wait, no,
Oh, sorry.
no,
If
definitely.
you're saying
not.
number one, it's all thinking
Kyle and Izzy from Uplift Gym out in Maryland. They're the top female and male weightlifters
Oh, no way.
in Australia, and they're both my age. They're
Whoa,
boyfriend and
man.
girlfriend.
He
and I
just
was
missed
train-
out on Olympic medal. Like
No
just,
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, like he was in the Olympics, but
Yeah.
oh
He-
wow.
like-
I'm pretty
Just
sure it was
missed out.
Commonwealth, not Olympics.
Was it?
Yeah, Commonwealth.
It's from the area?
Olympics, yeah.
Oh.
From the
Yeah,
area.
Right,
he lives in
maybe
Auburn.
Oh,
Bro,
what a
he's a
sick kid.
fucking machine,
What
bro. This
national-
guy's
what
got
national is he?
Aussie.
Yeah.
Kyle, shout out Kyle if you're watching this. Love you, bro.
Probably not.
Probably not. And Izzy. No, they're legends. Like I used to train with them at their house during lockdown, and then when they moved into their space at Breakthrough Fitness, they've got their own little gym called Uplift. Man, like it was awesome because learning that technical skill, I loved Olympic weightlifting through CrossFit and through training and like, you know, like training at these functional gyms, but going in and doing specifically Olympic weightlifting.
Bro, you're a gun at it. Too.
Bro,
Yeah, 100%.
and because of them, bro, because of their like cues, like literally they were just like, Kyle will watch someone, he knows like the motor mechanics of the human body, and it'll just, he'll just be like, okay, bro, just move your legs slightly to the right, and then like jump forward more, or some little tiny cue, and all of a sudden, like I'm like, wow, that felt better, and he's like, yeah, I know, bro, I'm a fucking weightlifter. Right? So like,
I'm a gun.
learning
I'm the
those
best.
technical skills, but also too like watching guys like I think it's Meso Hana, and there's the Georgian weightlifter Tasha Talkhadze.
I've seen the videos of
Talkhadze,
that
bro. He's
bloke.
got
What
like a
the
fucking Kyle himself, bro.
300
Has got like 160 kilo snatch, and then like a 205, I think, kilo clean and jerk.
Wow.
So like, bro,
Bro,
ridiculously
people can't
ridiculously
deadlift
strong.
that. Like that's like
Yeah.
a heavy deadlift.
And that's the thing, like he
heavy
approaches
deadlift.
the bar as if like he's just about to just deadlift it, and then all of a sudden he throws it above his head, and you're like,
Yeah.
holy shit, bro.
Bro.
Like, crazy
Technical,
stuff.
eh? Very
Yeah.
technical technique.
But like,
everything.
yeah, bringing it back to that like whole like the exposure and the environment and how important that is, and that's why like, you know, you see there's people in South America or, you know, even in like New Zealand, like the rugby culture,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's just crazy how just exposure to those environments, let alone like obviously the fact that there's access to people that are more skilled at it and what
Yes.
have you, is
Yeah.
just like means by default the baseline is just much so that
Do
much
they have
higher.
cars much in China?
Yeah, cars.
Okay, yeah, just
But
Yeah,
you see,
nice, yeah.
but you see a lot from a yeah. But you see a lot of the like say
China.
Ronaldo,
Yeah.
Ronaldo, like he grew up poor.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have access to. I mean, at some point in time when he
Yeah,
got picked
yeah,
up,
yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
like when they started to see him,
Yeah.
and he started to go to these academies. Before that, he was poor.
He was using a can.
But
to learn
Ronaldo
how
was
to
born in
juggle.
Sydney. No one will know who he was.
Well,
that's the whole point.
Yeah, but
you know
that's,
what I mean?
but that's
Yeah.
what I mean. By what skills did he learn in that time before he
Yeah.
got picked up by those academies?
Yeah,
like what
touche.
was that environment?
True.
Oh, bro, it's
Like
so
they-
fucking interesting.
you know.
Have
man.
you seen Messi move to America so he could go shopping in peace? No one notices him. So like Lionel
Oh, no
Messi like
way.
lives in
Yeah.
like like
What do you mean? Even like with his normal
Miami.
face,
He signed with son of Miami.
people don't know who he is.
You don't know who Lionel
In
Messi
America-
No,
is?
people don't know who he
Yeah,
is.
but
but
still,
still,
not in
he's
America.
Lionel fucking Messi.
America don't know who people are.
Yeah,
No,
they-
I'm saying I'm
yeah,
tripping
you're
out that I
tripping.
don't
Yeah,
know who
yeah,
he
Oh,
is.
yeah.
they're dumb Americans. You know what I mean?
They probably know who he is, but
Fucking
yeah.
dumb Americans. No, I'm joking.
They went to Miami.
China.
Sorry, Shawnee.
It's not a good skill.
And that's a wrap. Nah, where we at? This is skills part 2, so we can kind of wrap it up now. Up
Yeah.
to you guys.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, love that.
There we go.
Love that. We're gonna get a guest speakers week in, week out in the next couple of
Soon,
weeks.
yeah.
Very,
Soon.
very soon. We're
Yeah.
in the process of teeing that up, so I'm very excited for that.
That'll be
Yeah,
good.
we're
Yep,
just
definitely.
we're actually crossing people off. There's been a lot of requests, so we just got to go through.
Yeah,
cross
we just
people
got to
off
go
the
through
list.
it. I'll speak to our manager and our sort of
Yeah.
PR team.
Hey, can you? Yeah, got the call.
Yeah,
so-
sweet. Alright.
Thanks. Yeah. No, cheers, guys.
Coffee break.
Yeah, just make sure. Can you get the limo?
Yeah,
Get the fucking limo. All right. All right. Hey,
All good.
I'll get a double
Um,
Mac, please. Yeah. Thanks, mate.
Double Mac.
Beautiful.
Suck up,
Skills
big
part 2.
Skills part 2.
Thanks, guys.
Alright.
Love that.
Rock and roll.
Doodles.
Get the limo. Get the fucking limo.